So we're looking at Swami Prabhavananda's collection of talks called Realizing God. We're well along in the talk, Saints and Miracles, and we'll begin with this. If you seek powers and you are looking for miracles, you will never reach God. Now, when Swami Prabhavananda used words like never, he was not it's not just a turn of phrase. If you continue your attention outward in some fulfillment of some worldly desire, powers or miracles, you will never reach God. You have to seek God and God alone. Your mind has to be attuned to Him in the beginning as often as you can. And again, the Swami is giving us some spiritual teaching here. In the beginning, as often as you can. So you just keep reminding yourself of something having to do with the divine. Swami Sridharananda calls it divinizing your life. Giving, as Swami Prabhavananda said, give everything a Godward turn. As I remarked some time ago when we were studying Holy Mother's life, we were studying Holy Mother's life on Tuesday evenings. When I first heard that she took her, she and her niece and her, the niece's mother, took their hair clippings and their nail clippings and offered them to Shitala at a nearby temple, I thought, what a puzzling thing to do. And then it occurred to me, oh, this is just a way to divinize everything. You just, everything in your life, you find a way to turn it to the divine. And so this is what it means in the beginning, as often as you can. So you think, I'm doing this. Well, let me offer it to God. Oh, I've received this. Oh, this is a gift from God. This suffering is there. What is God trying to teach me through this suffering? That is my karma, but nevertheless, there's a lesson contained in it. So everything you remind yourself, this has a divine aspect. Gradually, now going back to this Swami, gradually you come to a state where there is a continuous stream of thought. And when you encounter the Swamis, some really wonderful Swamis come here. Harinamananda, Yogatmananda, Sarvadevananda, others. You'll notice that they just constantly seem to be absorbed, as it says here. They've come to a state where there's a continuous stream of thought. This vision of God, which makes one a saint, is to be attained while living on earth, here and now. Again, the Swami is offering us direct spiritual instruction. No pie in the sky when you die. Let's have our realization. Let's have our alignment with and relationship with and joy of the divine here and now. This continuous stream of thought, which makes one a saint, is to be attained while living on earth, here and now. Sri Krishna describes an illumined soul, quote, and this is quoting Krishna, he knows bliss in the Atman and wants nothing else. Cravings torment the heart. He renounces cravings. I call him illumined. Now, what does it mean to renounce cravings? Does it mean that you never want anything? No, it just simply means that when you have something, you don't torment yourself by thinking, oh, I'll never have this again. I'd better save some of this. I'd better plan for the next time I'm going to have it. This is cravings. This is addiction. It doesn't mean you never have anything or enjoy anything. Cravings, what I just described, torment the heart. He renounces cravings. So when you find yourself with that habit of mind, what do? You don't repress it or suppress it. You don't say, bad me for having this. No, no, no. You replace it with a higher thought. If I want this and I think I'll get joy from this, how much more joy will I get when I can succeed in having a continuous relationship with God? So you start your mantra, or you start reciting some prayer or some poem or something that attunes, as Swami says, attunes your mind to God. Cravings torment the heart. He renounces cravings. I call him illumined. Now back to the Swami. Such a person has no desires left. Again, quoting Krishna. Not shaken by adversity, not hankering after happiness. This equanimity that comes with yoga, union, and detachment. Remembering that the word yoga means both union and detachment. Union means relationship. Not shaken by adversity, nor hankering after happiness. So it's that equanimity that comes with being in that state where things come, they go, positive, negative, as it's seen by the body and by the mind. If it's adverse, you're not shaken off your foundation. If it's something that brings you something positive, something auspicious, there's no hankering after more of that. Not thrown off balance, the Swami says, not thrown off balance. Then quoting again from Krishna, free from fear, free from anger, free from the things of desire. I call him a seer, illumined. So let's just see what these things are again. Free from fear, free from anger, free from things of desire. I call him a seer. We only can become free from fear when we know who we truly are. This is what Vivekananda points out in Raja Yoga. When we know who we truly are through introspection, then we see there's nothing to fear. And what Krishna says in chapter 2 of the Gita, that the body is nothing more than a garment that one puts on and takes off. And as Sri Ramakrishna says in the gospel of his body, he said, just a pillowcase. When we see that, when we truly have that sense, deep sense, then there's no fear. No fear, nothing to be afraid of. Free from fear, free from anger. Anger is something that comes from our thwarted desires or from some wounded vanity. That's the normal two senses, the reasons we feel anger. Somebody has not treated us with enough respect. They have insulted us. They have done something to harm us. The only way to understand those things, is to understand that if we're experiencing those things, it is our karma. There is no result without a cause. So what is the lesson? What is it I am to learn from this so that I don't experience it anymore? And abiding in the knowledge that as soon as a bit of karma has been experienced, it won't repeat itself unless we repeat the behavior that produced it. So we have the choice then. If we are continuously angry because of things that are happening to us, then we need to look to ourselves. What is it that I'm getting from this feeling of anger? Does it make me feel powerful in the face of helplessness and a sense of inadequacy? Once again, It's when we know who we truly are that these things are not troubling. Free from fear, free from anger, free from the things of desire. I call him a seer, illumined. The things of the desire are things of desire, as Swami Prabhavananda pointed out. Desire is nothing more than a restlessness of the mind. When the mind is calm, peaceful, because of our practice of introspection, contemplation, concentration, and meditation, when the mind is calm, it does not reach out for something because it's not restless and attaches itself to some thing that it thinks is going to satisfy itself. Again, Krishna, the bonds of his flesh are broken. He is lucky and does not rejoice. He is unlucky and does not weep. I call him illumined. And then a very important image, and Sri Ramakrishna was very fond of using this particular metaphor. The tortoise can draw in its legs. To most things, then the tortoise becomes invulnerable. Those things that it was evolved to be self-protective from. Of course, human beings are a different kind of predator, but the tortoise can draw in its legs and its head. And so it presents the outside world but with nothing but its armor. The tortoise can draw in its legs. The seer can draw in his senses. I call him illumined. So Krishna is pointing right here to what Patanjali refers to as pratyahara, being able to withdraw from outward stimulation of the senses, the being divorced from the sense organs because you've turned your attention within. And then once the attention is turned within, you're also free from the stimulation of the sense organs themselves, those things that are part of the mind, the antakarana in Sanskrit, that produces stimulation even though there is no relationship to your sense receptors on the outside. There's self-stimulation, particularly in the form of memory, reverie, and then projection. The tortoise can draw in its legs, the seer can draw in his senses. I call him illumined. The abstinent run away from what they desire, but they carry the desires with them. In other words, the desires simply move inside. They run away from the things in the environment. Oh no, I don't do that. But they're still looking to that kind of stimulation inside. So they carry their desires with them. This is why when people say, oh, I think I'll move to such and such a place, I'll be much better off there. No, because they just take themselves and all they are with them from one place to another. So they'll regenerate whatever it was that troubled them in their current environment. They'll regenerate it elsewhere. When a man enters reality, capital R, when a man enters reality, he leaves his desires behind him. Swami Prabhavananda used to say, we live in the West, the land of rebirth and death. We live in the West, but we have glimpsed that overwhelmingly bright and shining light in the East, the land of dawn, of life. So move, he said, move from the West, move toward that light. Do whatever you can to move yourself toward that light, nearer and nearer that light. He says, this makes it easier to leave behind the things of the West. You do it spontaneously. it isn't so much a matter of renunciation, is simply just leaving them behind. Now, we've covered quite a bit here. Are there any comments or questions before we move on? Because we're going to make a turn here in the talk. And so if there are any comments or questions, now's the time to ask them or make the comment. This is what we do studying spirituality together. It's good for the group, for you to say what's on your mind, because you may find someone else also shares that thought.
Brother, this is Peter.
Yes, hello, Peter.
I'm sorry I'm not on video, but
we hear you just fine.
Oh, wonderful. I just wanted to say how your opening comments about turning all of our actions, even, it sounds to me, even the most mundane things, and turn them over to God. I think I've been attempting to practice that.
Yes.
And I find when I remember to do it, even the simple things, I find it to be very powerful, but I also find it to be very difficult to maintain through the day, especially when life gets, pulls you 20 different directions, maybe the very times when it would be most useful.
Well, you're right on, Peter. You're right on. And the thing is, when we're at our wits' end, when, as you say, life is pulling you in 20 different directions, and you're frustrated and feeling inadequate, and all of those things that come to all of us, the thing to do is offer that too. Just say, oh, Lord, this is your world. I'm doing the best I can. All this is thine. It is of thee. I'm offering it to you. And I'm going to take what happens next as your gift, as your prasad. And when we can just halt our mind in mid-step, as it were, and offer even our frustration and our anxiety and our sense of being overwhelmed, offer even that. Offer especially that, I'll say. Offer especially that.
Yes.
There is a relief. There is a sense of relief, particularly as you practice it more and more. Because as I've said before, what happens is there begins to be, and then it grows and grows, this sense of relationship, correspondence. You feel the Lord accepting. Then the Lord is however you conceive of the Lord. There is no defined Lord. There is the divine presence, however it appeals and appears to us. So whatever it is that you just as you proceed day after day after day after day, week after week, month after month, you find that this sense of relationship grows. And so the sense of relief, the sense of being in this with the divine, participating in this. As Swami Prabhavananda said, the only one who is truly your own is the Lord. So when we begin to feel like we're doing this together with the Lord, and as a matter of fact that the Lord is in the lead, then there is a tangible sense of relief. I'm really glad you brought that up, Peter. Thank you.
Your comments are incredibly helpful. Thank you so much.
Good. Anyone else?
Yeah, Brother Shankara.
Yes, Swayam.
Would love to hear your thoughts on the significance of this directionality.
I'm sorry. Would you love to hear my thoughts on what? You need to be a little closer to the mic.
Okay. The importance of the directionality, east, look towards the east for light, and the west is birth and rebirth. Is it just like a geographical direction, or is there other?
No, it's metaphorical. Of course, it refers to, where does the sun set? The sun sets in the west. the light is reborn from the east. So the West is the home of both the land of death and of the undying lands, of immortality. But when in the beginning, when we are thinking of the divine, we face toward the light. And of course, then there's always this metaphor of doing an about face. Rather than being outwardly directed toward the land of that which appears and disappears, we turn ourselves away from that. We do an about face, turn ourselves inward to the source of light. So like all metaphors, it'll break apart if you look at it too closely. You know, it doesn't, language is simply not capable of containing the divine. This is why it's said in the evening prayer, speech cannot hold thee nor mind, yet without thee we think not nor speak. So the East and West, you know, it's not like the West is bad and the East is good. It's not like that. It's just a metaphor for that which where the sun sets and where the sun rises. You know, in Navajo, among the Diné, that's the real name for the Navajo, they say always doors toward the sunrise. Thank you, Swayam.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay. A spiritual aspirant, back to the Swami now. This was the Swami actually speaking. A spiritual aspirant tries to gain self-control, but there is lingering desire, so it is necessary to keep away from all kinds of temptations. And again, the Swami is giving us a subtle direction here. Just, you know, you've heard me tell this story, you know. I have a real soft spot for soft ice cream. There was a time when I had to put both hands on the steering wheel and just look directly at the road ahead and not turn into a McDonald's because they were selling those soft ice cream cones for only 79 cents. And they're low fat, and the mind goes. So I had to just literally just hold on to the wheel with both hands and look directly ahead and not turn into the McDonald's. This was my own personal experience. There are other things as well, but I'm sure you can all find something in your own life. So this is what the Swami means, necessary to keep away from all kinds of temptations. But the illumined soul is free from all desires. Desires may arise for the moment. In other words, it isn't that the illumined soul never sees or never feels a desire. Desires may arise for the moment, but they do not disturb. They have become completely absorbed. That is to say, they are dormant. They aren't watered with the water of your attention, so they no longer spring up immediately when the water and the sun of your attention are on them. So the teaching is, think and think of God. Learn to love him. Keep recollectedness of him. And at long last, be absorbed in him. And please hear the words at long last. We're not talking a matter of weeks or months here. We're talking years. This, if it matters to you, you must keep it up and keep it up. And you must not, that insatiable appetite that comes, you must not allow it to be deflected towards something worldly. Oh, well, I'm not achieving this. I've done this so long, I'm not achieving it. Well, then I'll just, this wonderful temptation has arisen. I'll opt for that because it's the path of least resistance. But what happens even if we do that? If you remember, Arjuna asks that question of Krishna. Because Arjuna is every person, and every person, to one degree or another, is a drama queen, Arjuna asks the question rather dramatically. Oh, Krishna, what happens if a person falls away from the path of yoga before death? Will they not be cut off as a cloud that is separated from the main body of the cloud is cut off? No home here on earth, no home in the afterlife. And so he goes on like that. And in one of the few instances in the Gita where Krishna addresses him so affectionately, he says, "Oh no, my son, that's not how it works. No effort is ever wasted. So even if a man falls away from the path of yoga before death, what will happen? He will be reborn into a family that is auspicious for his further growth." It may not seem like it when you're a child. You don't understand. You won't have a frame of reference for this. You may even feel like you're an alien from another planet that's been born into an earthly family. Some very sensitive people feel that. But the fact is that it is inauspicious. You'll learn later, you'll see after you're age 25 probably, how auspicious it was. And Krishna says, then you will go on with renewed vigor, because your mumukshutvam will reawaken and your very bones will make you do it. So there is nothing to fear, nothing to fear. Learn to love God, keep recollectedness of him, and at long last be absorbed in him, and you become a saint in this very life. And don't think, oh no, that couldn't happen to me. Krishna says, turn to me with complete devotion. Turn to me with complete devotion. And whatever you've done in the past, whatever life you lived in the past, is completely ignored. He says, I see no sinner. Turn to me in utter devotion. I see no sinner. Holiness itself shall transform you. And the Swami says that transformation is you become a saint in this very life. It is the ideal and the purpose of human life to become a living saint. Now, isn't that a wonderfully inspiring way to think about it? It is the ideal and purpose of human life to become a living saint. But what is a saint? What is one who has attained freedom from all bondages of life and death? What is it to be someone who's attained freedom and from the bondages of life and death? How is it possible for every one of us to attain that state of saintliness? A misunderstanding which exists all over the world, in India as well as in the West, is that in order to become a saint, in order to be a saint, one must perform miracles. Of course, we know that Jesus performed certain miracles, and the multitudes followed him. Then what happened? The multitudes see the signs and miracles, but they're not ready to follow the teachings. One time, Jesus came back to a village and saw a man rolling in the mud. Jesus said, "What are you doing there?" The man said, "Master, I was a leper and you healed me. What else am I to do?" Then he saw a man chasing a girl and he said, "What are you doing?" And the man said, "Master, I was blind and you gave me eyes. What am I to do?" Rolling in the mud, of course, means, indulging in a worldly life, becoming soiled by the things of the world. And then, the blind man, this becomes a little more explicit. I was blind and you gave me eyes. So what am I to do but chase the girl? I didn't ever see a beautiful girl before. I didn't even know what one was. This is the ultimate pointlessness of the miracles. Sri Ramakrishna said, yes, one can have these powers. And suppose I get the power of healing. What will happen? Well, actually, he had the power of healing, which, as you read the gospel and his divine play, you see that it happened from time to time. But he says, what happens if and he really means, what if I'm known for having the power of healing? This place will be a hospital. Then how can spiritual life be given and taught? So if you remember, in the end of his life, Sri Ramakrishna was very much in the care of doctors for his throat cancer that ultimately took the body. He didn't ask the Divine Mother to heal him. He didn't do it himself, although his devotees pled with him to do it, or to ask the Mother to do it. He didn't do it. Is there no way to judge? How can spiritual life be given and taught? Is there no way to judge? Yes. In the presence of the holy, your mind goes naturally Godward. And if those of you just recollect what it's like to be in the presence of Sarvadevananda, in the presence of Yogatmananda, in the presence of Harinamananda, Chandrasekharananda, the other Swamis and Prabhrajikas who visited here. Your mind goes naturally Godward. If you are a spiritual aspirant who finds it difficult to pray and to meditate upon God, you find it becomes easier to think of God in holy company. That's one sign. Let me give you a personal example. One time in 2007, it was my privilege to accompany Swami Sridharananda. Those of you who know Swami Sridharananda, who Swami Sridharananda is, he's the Swami in charge of the work in Australia and New Zealand. He's now in his mid-80s. But 2007, he was still pretty young and vigorous. And so myself and one other person, had the privilege of driving with him, being his tour guide, as he put it, driving him from Los Angeles to San Francisco so that he could participate in a week-long retreat, a weekend-long retreat, 3-day weekend retreat. On the mind. That was his subject for that weekend, the mind. Well, the trip up was magical enough, just the three of us in the car. But after that retreat in Olima, which is one large public retreat center for the San Francisco Center, the society there, the Society of the Northern California Society, also owns a place above Lake Tahoe. It overlooks Lake Tahoe. It's a little cabin. It was my blessed privilege to go and be with the Swami for the better part of 3 days in that cabin. And I'm saying this to illustrate it becomes easier to think of God in holy company. That is one side. It was as if the Swami had created this atmosphere of divinity, and really it was difficult to think of anything else. That's how powerful these holy ones are. For 3 days, it was as if I had gone to some special loka, as they call them, some spiritual place beyond ordinary human experience. Now, am I boasting when I tell you this? Please don't think this. It's just an illustration, and don't think it can't happen to you. You just don't know what might happen. In a way, this happening to me was an answer to prayer. I didn't know that's what I was praying for. I was just praying for the benefits of holy company. So this is what happened. But it's just personal testimony from here of just exactly what this Swami says. You find it becomes easier to think of God in holy company. As a matter of fact, in the presence of someone like Swami Sridharananda, it becomes difficult to think of anything else. If you want to know more about this aspect of Swami Sridharananda, what it's like to be or talk with him and spend time with him, talk to Balakrishna. Balakrishna made a very special effort to go to Australia and spend time with Swami Sridharananda. And in conversation, I know from Balakrishna's own story of what happened there, that this was his experience also. And by the way, you can all go stay as a guest with Swami Yogatmananda. You can all go and stay as a guest with Swami Harinamananda in San Diego, or with Sarvadevananda in Hollywood. Any one of you can go and be with these people, stay with them. If that's practical and possible for you at some point, it certainly is a desirable thing to do. Back to the Swami. Another sign is that a holy person does not hate any so-called sinner. You see this in so many examples. Jesus, Buddha, Ramakrishna. Max Muller, who wrote about the life and teachings of Ramakrishna, met a Brahmo devotee from India who had known Ramakrishna. Max Muller asked what he thought of him. The Brahmo devotee replied, well, he was a good man, but in the end he got spoiled. What happened? Well, he became friends with alcoholics and even a prostitute. Then Max Muller jumped up and said, now I know he was a man of God. He was a divine incarnation. Now I know. Ha ha! Max Muller was wiser than the Brahmo devotee. What was asked of Jesus? The Pharisees asked him, why do you spend so much time with the publicans, tax collectors, and other low-life functionaries of society? Why do you spend so much time with publicans and sinners? And Jesus replied, because they're the ones who need me. Then Max Muller jumped up and said, now I know he was a man of God. He was a divine incarnation. Now I know. Good for Max Muller. The Swami now remarks, a friend of mine who was very devoted to Maharaj but that's Swami Brahmananda. Maharaj was Swami Prabhavananda's guru, his master, as he called him. A friend of mine who was very devoted to Maharaj, but who did not join the monastery, felt he had made a very grave mistake. He was attracted to Maharaj, but had a guilty conscience. So he would come stealthily when he knew Maharaj would be resting. He would do certain small things, services. He would do certain small things and go away. One day Maharaj waited for him and caught him. "Now don't run away, come here." Then he asked, "Have you seen a buffalo?" "Yes." "Have you seen how big its horns are?" "Yes." "Do they feel anything?" "No." "Well, I have bigger horns than a buffalo. I don't mind any flies or mosquitoes. I have bigger horns than a buffalo. I don't mind any flies or mosquitoes. I can throw them out any moment." You see, to him, there is no sinner. This I have seen in my life. Swami Prabhavananda speaking of his own life. This I have seen in my life. And we hear stories about the lives of these great ones, Jesus and Mary Magdalene and Buddha. Buddha, you know, died eating some pork at the house of a prostitute. He refused to go to a rich man's house, but went to the poor prostitute instead. And why did he do that? Because he knew that it really didn't mean anything to the rich man to have him come there. It would have just been something for him to take pride about and puff himself up about. But he knew that his presence would transform the life of the prostitute. So knowing, because these great ones know, knowing that it would mean his physical death, he went anyway. And then, of course, Sri Ramakrishna. You know how Girish Chandra Ghosh was completely transformed. Those of you who don't know the story, Girish Chandra Ghosh was one of the, he was the very definition of a rogue and a roue. He was a womanizer. He was a drinker. He was a carouser. He just anything that you can imagine that is degraded, he participated in. But then somehow he encountered Sri Ramakrishna, and he was completely transformed. He literally became a saint in that lifetime. He was an alcoholic and did all kinds of mischief, so-called sin, but he was completely transformed. I met him when he was a great saint. This is Swami Prabhavananda talking. I met him when he was a great saint. It so happened that he had been associated with a prostitute, and one of the girls told him she would like to see Ramakrishna when he was sick. Now, this was before he was completely transformed. Girish Ghosh was seeing a prostitute, and she said she'd like to see Ramakrishna when he was sick. At that time, no stranger was allowed to visit Ramakrishna. He was very, very ill. And so Girish Ghosh was a dramatist and had a theater. And so Girish Ghosh told his brother to take the girl and dress her as an English boy. Easy to do for someone skilled in the theater. Take this girl and dress her as an English boy. In the evening, Girish Ghosh took her upstairs, got past the guards, in other words, because it looked like an English boy. In the evening, Girish Ghosh took her upstairs. Sri Ramakrishna lived upstairs at the Kashipur Garden House, and took off the disguise. Sri Ramakrishna had a good laugh over it, and then gave her a touch, which transformed her whole life. Why did this happen? Because she desired to see him. Don't think that you need to put on a disguise. Just desire to be with him. He then gave her a touch which transformed her whole life. Some prostitutes came to my master, Maharaj, Swami Brahmananda. Some prostitutes came to my master, and through his grace, these women were completely transformed. I have met them. You see, that is the greatest miracle that the great saints perform, transforming people's lives. Balakrishna, can you see how close we are to the end of the chapter? How close we are to the end of this talk?
It's about one page, Shankaraji.
Okay, very good. Well, it's 11:50, so I'll go ahead and finish reading that one page. And then we can have some discussion and we can go on past noon. That won't be a problem. You see, that is the greatest miracle that the great saints perform, transforming people's lives. And that's true of every one of us sitting here this morning. Every one of us. If we go to the saints, put ourselves at their feet, if we want to see them and be with them, they can transform our lives. In this country, it is understood that somebody becomes a saint after he's dead and gone. But our ideal is to become saints while living on earth. Shankara said, there is no longer any identification of the Atman with its coverings. In other words, that's the definition of sainthood. There is no longer any identification of the Atman with its coverings. That is our difficulty. That is our ignorance. That is our life within Maya. Somehow the Atman has gotten confused. As Saint Teresa of Avila said, it is only in us that God is so confused, that God becomes so confused. It is only in us that God becomes so confused that he asks questions. There is no longer any identification of the Atman with its coverings. In other words, the saint has realized the Atman, the self, as one with Brahman, not identifying itself with its coverings at all, but with that attributeless source of all being, Atman, Brahman. All sense of duality is obliterated. There is pure, unified consciousness. That person who is well established in the consciousness is said to be illumined. A person is said to be free even in this life when he is established in illumination. That person's bliss is unending. He almost forgets the world of appearances. Now, many of you heard Ryan New-Collins's presentation on Nisargadatta Maharaj. This is his testimony, that he, from moment to moment, almost forgot the world of appearances. He said, life is lived like a dream in a fog. Even though his mind is dissolved in Brahman, he is fully awake, free from the ignorance of waking life. Even though his mind is dissolved in Brahman, and that was what Adi Shankaracharya said, my mind was dissolved in the ocean of consciousness. Even though his mind is dissolved in Brahman, he is fully awake, free from the ignorance of waking life. He is fully conscious but free from any craving. Such a man is said to be free even in this life. Jivan mukta. For him, the sorrows of this world are over. Though he possesses a finite body, he remains united with the infinite. His heart knows no anxiety. Such a man is said to be free even in this life. Jivan mukta. Though he lives in the body, he seems merely like though he lives in the body, it seems merely like a shadow following him. He is no longer troubled by the thought of I and mine. No, there's only the thought of thou, thou, thou. Such are the characteristics of a man who is free even in this life. We do not merely read about saints in books, but there are living souls who are that. The main point is that every one of us must try to achieve this state. You may ask why we don't see many people like that. And the answer is very simple. How many struggle? How many struggle? In fact, how many know that the purpose of life is to realize God? I have heard many ministers say that practical religion is to love thy neighbor, to do good. Of course, I do not object to doing good, but what is the objective? To see the self in your neighbor, to see the one Atman in your neighbor. How can you see that until you learn to see the Atman within yourself? Where shall we go to find God if not in our own hearts and in every living being? And the Swamiji didn't say it in that quote, but there's a sequentialness to it. Where shall we go to find God if not in our own hearts and then in every living being? How can you see that until you learn to see the Atman within yourself? See God within yourself and see God in every being. That is the ideal. How to see the self in your neighbor, to see the one Atman in your neighbor. How can you see that until you learn to see the Atman within yourself? See God within yourself, and you see God in every being. That is the ideal. So that's the end of that talk on saints and miracles. We have time. As you've heard me say many times, this is the best part where we share with one another. Come, let us go forward together. What would you like to say or ask or simply say out loud in response to what you've heard, what you've thought?
You'd said that a holy man would associate with publicans and tax collectors. What's a publican again? I forgot.
A publican is a tax collector.
Okay, I thought it was like a Republican or something.
No, not Republicans,
Okay.
but publicans. Publicans are those who serve the public, but like tax collectors serve the public. It's a term that referred to a lower level of society within the Jewish society of that time that served the Romans, collecting their taxes, and had all those kinds of low level administrative, and usually there was some punitive aspect to it, like rent collectors, tax collectors, enforcers of various kinds. And so Jesus was much in their company, if you read in the Gospels. And so he was asked by the Pharisees, why do you spend so much time with those people rather than with the elite? And Jesus' answer was very simple, because they're the ones who need me to transform their lives. The elite, if you read the story of Nicodemus, you'll see this is the story of Nicodemus in the Gospels. You'll see how hard it is for one of the elite to transform his life, even in the presence of an incarnation of God. So filled with themselves are they. So filled with their self-importance and their self-opinion and their doubts about the reality of anything except what they know. So read the story of Nicodemus if you want to see one who Jesus gave his effort to transform.
Mm.
But Nicodemus wasn't, in the final analysis, he wasn't having any. Thank you. Anything else?
Now, Christ hung out with prostitutes and alcoholics, is that correct?
Sinners, people who hung around in bars, yeah.
So I'm thinking for
prostitutes,
an
people who hung-
avatar, that's okay, but for those of us who haven't quite make it could be a little dangerous.
No. That's not for us. Once you become a saint,
Right.
then you have the power to transform others' lives. But in the meantime, no. No, protect yourself. Protect yourself. Well, I have something to say. First of all, to remind you that this evening at 6:30, there will be a special arati. It'll be Zoomed from this chair. I'll do a little worship, arati worship, at the shrine behind me. Then I will talk for a few minutes, 10 to 15 minutes, about the life and work of Swami Vivekananda in the West, his mission to the West. And then for the next hour, from 7 to 8, you have the opportunity to either be a reader yourself, find something that you can read about, either about this country. We're celebrating the nation's, you can see the flags on the shrine. We're celebrating the nation's birthday anniversary, or about Swami Vivekananda. So anything that you'd like to read, 5 minutes max, 5 minutes max. I will have to cut you off if you go past that. But that's at 6:30 this evening, special arati and observance of the nation's birthday, and Swami Vivekananda's Mahasamadhi Day is also, as coincidentally, Swami Prabhavananda's Mahasamadhi Day by his own will. He left the body July 4th, 1976, on the bicentennial of the nation. So that's this evening at 6:30, from 6:30 to approximately 8 o'clock. Zoomed, you will find the link on the website or in your newsletter or on Facebook. Then tomorrow morning, the talk is about what is this place, this center, what is this place, and why are we here? This is a talk that I give every other year to remind people of the purpose and momentum of this place. And again, it has to do with Swami Vivekananda's in a much wider sense than the little talk this evening. In the much wider sense, Swami Vivekananda's mission to the West. I won't talk about his whole life, either tonight or tomorrow morning. I will talk about what he did, why he came to the West, what he did here, and the transformative power that it is working on this country, slowly but surely. Then something unusual, on Monday at 7:30 in the evening, Sewa International, Sewa, S-E-W-A, Sewa International, is sponsoring a webinar on how does spiritual life support us in this very distressed and dreadful time that we're living through. And there are 3 panelists. I'm one of 3 panelists. You can find the link on our Facebook page, or you can go to Sewa International's website, S-E-W-A, that's how they spell it, Sewa International, and find the link for Monday evening, 7:30 Eastern Daylight Time. As I say, I'll be one of 3 panelists talking about how the scriptures and the teachings of the saints can help us endure and sustain and even grow during this dreadful time. So those are the next 3 things that'll be happening from here, so to speak. Anything else?
So, Brother Shankara, if somebody wants to contribute to the reading this evening, do we have to let you know?
No. Just when it comes time to for the readings, just you can let me know if you like. You can send me an email. It wasn't that that I don't want to see it, but you can decide, so to speak, right up till the last minute whether you want to participate in that. And like I say, select something no longer than 5 minutes. And so there'll be an opportunity for about 12 people to read if that many want to read. And normally it does. Or sing a song. If you'd rather sing a song. Most happy to sing most welcome. We'll be singing Om Ring Ritam and reciting Breaker of this World's Chain as part of the arati. But anything else that you might want to sing, I know that you're a singer, Swayam. I know both you and Naveen are musicians and singers. So if you want to sing rather than recite something, please do.
Thank you, Brother.
Anything else from anyone? All right. Well, it's a few minutes after noon. This has been wonderful. Always hearing from Swami Prabhavananda is so uplifting. And those of you who have the book, the book is Realizing God. Think about what talk you might want to take up next Saturday morning. The next one up, so to speak, the next one that is appearing on the page here is something called Cast Out Fear. But there are many different topics covered in this book. And if there's one that you particularly would like to hear Swami Prabhavananda's, what he had to say about it, and what commentary is then made about what Swami Prabhavananda had to say, you can nominate that next Saturday morning, because we just finished Saints and Miracles this morning. Any last thoughts from anyone? All right, well, thank you all for coming. Come, let us go forward together. O Lord, take my hand. O Lord, take my hand. Without thee I may fall. O Lord, pull me on. O Lord, pull me on. Without thee I may stray. O Lord, take my hand. O Lord, pull me on. Without thee I may fall, without thee I may stray. O Lord, draw me near, thou art my all in all. O Lord, draw me near, thou art my all in all. O Lord, take my hand, O Lord, pull me on. O Lord, draw me near, thou art my all in all. O Lord, fill this heart. O Lord, fill this heart. Thou art my all in all. O Lord, take my hand. O Lord, pull me on. O Lord, draw me near. O Lord, fill this heart. Thou art my all in all. Thou art my all in all. Without thee I may fall. Om Amen. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. So until next we see one another on the screen here. And it looks like things are not getting that much better here in Georgia. As a matter of fact, there's evidence they're getting worse in terms of the virus. So we'll continue to meet via Zoom for the time being. All right. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai, Durga Durga Durga. Go in Mother's loving and protective embrace. Jai Shri Ramakrishna, Jai Ma, Jai Vivekananda, Jai Raja Maharaj.
Thank you, Brother Shankara. See you tomorrow.
See you then.
Thank you so much, brother. Be well.
Thank you, thank
Yes.
you. Jai Ma.
July
Jai
4th,
Ma,
Brother
Jai
Shankara.
Ma.
Take care.